Hi, her name is Emma Kay, and she has been sharing views and opinions while advertising her very soon-to-be-published book, The Terrible Truth About the Truth, a story of a Rwandan Tutsi genocide survivor, when home doesn't feel like home, and when abroad feels far from home. For those who have been listening to Emma's sad and true stories, you unmistakably remember her reminding her listeners to never, ever take anything for granted. Today, Emma and I will be talking about Nyonsenga Dieudonné, also known as
Cyuma Hassan,
one of a very few Rwandan journalists who refused to give up on Rwandans when everyone else was afraid to open their mouths and risk their lives.
Yes, indeed. The sad reality of Kagame's regime. When you open your mouth, they close it for you, and for good. Ingabire Umuhoza Victoire opened her mouth, and she was sentenced to 15 years of prison. Ingabire served almost 8 long years, and she was released on a so-called presidential pardon. But she is still receiving a daily dose of torture intended to shut her off for good.
As her husband, Assinapol Rwigara, was killed in cold blood by Kagame's men after he refused to give up his assets to Kagame's party, RPF, Adeline opened her mouth and she was arrested with her children. Some of her assets were demolished, others seized. If you want to know more about this story, watch one of Emma's previous stories entitled Diane Persecuted Under RPF's Regime. As we speak, same as Ingabire Victoire, Adeline and her children are receiving their doses of harassment and torture every single day.
And what about Cyuma Hassan?
As for Cyuma Hassan, his curse started in February 2020 when he attended Kizito Mihigo's funerals and dared reporting the unwanted truth about the signs of torture he noticed on Kizito's body. For those who don't know who Kizito Mihigo was, I recommend that you watch Emma's YouTube video entitled In Loving Memory of Kizito Mihigo.
That being said, Kizito's killing was a shock to millions of Rwandans who profoundly loved his music. In fact, through his foundation, Kizito Mihigo Peace, KMP, Rwandans strongly believed in Kizito's abilities to bring the much-needed reconciliation between Hutus and Tutsis. But guess what? Nobody dared attend his funerals because no one was ready to follow him in his grave. No one, except the fearless Cyuma Hassan.
As mentioned above, Cyuma Hassan's news report revealed some unwanted details about Kizito's body, and that angered Kizito's killers, who wanted everyone to believe in suicide as a cause of Kizito's death. Cyuma Hassan was arrested and thrown in jail. Luckily, a year after, he was released after being cleared by a court order for unknown reasons.
This is confusing to me. All this time, I had been trashing the Rwandan justice, thinking judges don't do their job. I guess I should apologize.
Emma, maybe you should, but before you do, know that after Cyuma's release from prison, his decision to continue to denounce the crimes committed by Kagame's regime against innocent Rwandans didn't impress his judges. After noticing that Cyuma had become the voice of many poor and persecuted Rwandans who didn't have any means to express themselves, Cyuma's judges had to do something to keep themselves out of trouble.
That must explain why on November 11, 2021, only 1 year after Cyuma's release, Cyuma's lawyer was told that the prosecutor had filed an appeal against the judge's ruling on Cyuma's innocence. Consequently, Cyuma's ruling was completely reversed, and the very same judges who had pronounced Cyuma's innocence sentenced him for 7 years of imprisonment without giving him a chance to explain himself. Sadly, Cyuma was arrested and jailed for the second time.
As his enemies were breaking into his home, we all heard Cyuma Hassan pronouncing his last words. To my Rwandan fans and friends, this is a goodbye, because I don't think they will let me come back alive this time. Whatever happens, remember, I tried to advocate for you Rwandans, and I couldn't keep my mouth shut as I was watching your loved ones being persecuted and killed. Unfortunately, it is now my turn. I know sooner or later they will tell everyone that I killed myself, or I died of a natural cause. Don't believe their words. Just so you know, I am young and healthy, I have no mental health issues, and committing suicide was never an item on my to-do list.
That is very disturbing, and Cyuma Hassan's concerns are justified. Without counting Kizito, whose death cause was torture, though announced as suicide, Barafinda, after pointing a finger at President Kagame and his ruling party, RPF, for human rights violations, he was handcuffed and placed in a coffin as a way to deactivate him. And there he remained for weeks. After his release, his persecutors were surprised when he didn't shut his mouth, and they decided to shut it off for him. Barafinda was later forced by the Rwandan police into their car, and he was taken to a psychiatric center where he received harmful injections before they brought him back home.
Today, Barafinda is experiencing unendurable pain, dying slowly, and watching his own death. Barafinda's story has some similarities with Aimable Karasira's. Him too, he dared speaking after the killing of his genocide-survived family by the RPF, and he was arrested, and according to some rumors, he was later brought to the same psychiatric center to be finished, alive. Every time when there is a change in the government, Rwandans get excited as they hope for a break in their mistreatment and killings, unaware that things are about to get worse. If you are blessed with a stable country where there is freedom of speech and where the justice system is independent, please join me and Emma to advocate for innocent Rwandans or non-Rwandan citizens, wherever they are, who are persecuted, tortured, and killed on a daily basis. And whether you join us or not, remember to never, ever take your blessings for granted. If you like Emma's sad and true stories, please remember to subscribe to her channel and or send her an email at emmak.bookauthor@gmail.com so that you are the first to be notified when the terrible truth about the truth is published. See you next time.